So, Ofwat, you have fairly recently announced, I think, the sixth Water Breakthrough Challenge. Just be good to understand a little bit more about the monies available. Are there any particular technologies you're wanting folks to focus on and criteria for applying? Yeah, just tell us a bit more about the process.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yes, so yeah, Water Breakthrough Challenge round six has launched. We're putting £50 million up this year. That's a £10 million increase on last year. And actually, we're not very prescriptive about the types of entry that we receive for. We are very happy to receive anything across the water cycle, whether that be drinking water quality, wastewater treatment, river water monitoring, distribution through the network, leakage, or even innovation sort of enabling activities. We are interested in all of it if in some way it's going to take the sector forward. And so what we tend to see through the competition is mid to late stage TRL level ideas. TRL is the technology readiness level, and that mid to late stage is that point where they're really testing perhaps in a real environment or close to real or live environment. So quite advanced in the project development. Our entries are led by water companies in all instances, but anybody can partner with them. And oftentimes we find that there are multiple partners from a diverse range of different backgrounds, and they're the guys who are bringing the ideas to the water companies. And I guess the final point now on the criteria for applying, what it's all about really the impact that the idea has for customers, communities, and the environment. It's as broad as that. We do cast quite a wide net. And this is about bringing forward the very best ideas. We don't want to put any inhibitors into the system as to what comes through. There are other things we'll do, which we may come on to later, which is a little bit more directive and targeted. But for this competition, it's wide open.
Okay, and in terms of the challenge itself, I think there are two streams, one of which is the catalyst stream and one the transform stream. I guess the clue might be in the titles, but please tell us a little bit more about each of those, what you're expecting.
Yeah, I guess it is to a certain extent. So we'll start with the Catalyst Stream. That's our lower value competition within Breakthrough. So we're looking here at entries with a value of between £150,000 and £2 million. And really, this is for those smaller scale, earlier stage ideas. Maybe it's the first phase of a larger project, which then may come back for further funding down the line. It doesn't always have to be a widget or a technology. We funded a fantastic project called Water Efficiency in Faith and Diverse Communities as one example. And this is all about trying to recognise and understand much better how faith and diverse communities may value and use water in different ways. And this is really going to be quite crucial in our pursuit of sort of reducing water demand across a broader population. So understanding that between different communities is very helpful. So that's one example. But then other examples, and completely at the other end of the scale, are projects around employing robots in sewers to undertake condition assessment inspections, for example. That's probably more of the sort of thing that you might expect us to be doing. Equally, we've got another project where we're trying to detect leaks much better via unused fibre optic cables that are already installed under roads, and they carry our broadband services. So really, it's a wide range of things, and it always tends to be slightly earlier in the process and the development than perhaps what we see for Transform. But it's always incredibly, it's great fun to see what ideas come through because it is as diverse as that. And on the Transform stream, I mean, little later in stage than Catalyst, certainly a lot bigger in size and scope, and probably a bit closer to having a more immediate impact and being able to scale upon completion. And so I guess these ones really are those ambitious projects. They're probably a little bit more fully formed, and they're enabling water companies to trial technologies or approaches that have the potential to really transform the sector. So I'll throw another example into the mix here. Severn Trent are doing a fantastic project called Net Zero Hub, which, if it's successful, is going to produce the world's first retrofitted net zero, completely net zero wastewater treatment plant. That will be an unbelievable achievement if they can pull it off, given all the chemical processes in that, in wastewater treatment works, and all the energy that it takes to operate that sort of plant. So in this example, they're bringing together half a dozen technologies, and those technologies are proven to a degree on an individual basis, but not in combination. So if this comes off, it'll be a real game changer, excuse me, for the sector. And that's really what our Transform competition is all about.
Okay, and as the name suggests, the sixth Water Breakthrough Challenge. So there've been some previous ones. How successful have they been? I mean, in terms of the monies awarded projects. And then I was going to ask you to give me some examples. You already have done that. I mean, you're welcome to give me other projects that you stand out, but just, yeah, how would you quantify the success of the the initiative to date?
Yeah, well, we're pretty pleased with what we've seen so far. There's always more work to do, of course. But to give you a sense of the scale of what's been achieved, over the previous 5 years, we've supported 109 projects. We've spent £200 million on those projects, and those projects have involved, alongside the water companies, 300 different partner organisations as well. So we've had a huge variety of ideas, entrants, and actually of that £200 million, worth saying also that 70% of it, about £140 million, goes to those non-water company entities. So think here of sort of charities, environmental NGOs, startups, slightly larger innovators, universities, supply chain bodies, consultancies, you name it. Anyone who is part of one of those huge projects has benefited in one way or another. So that's a really good part of what we're doing. We've had 30 projects complete so far, so not a huge amount. But we know innovation takes a decent amount of time. But I think what really encouraging there is we're seeing some examples of these innovations now being implemented by not only the lead water company, the company that's overseeing the project, but also by the water companies who've looked at that innovation and decided that it could make a difference for them also. And of course, that implementation equals impact. We're not here just to fund the fun trial bit. This is about enduring long-term impact as well. So that's been really encouraging. Our innovation projects do tend to be 2 to 4 years in duration, so it does take a little while for them to complete and for that learning to be taken on board by others. But that is now happening, so we're really pleased with that. And I guess aside from that stuff, what I'm personally most pleased about is how the fund has helped to break down the silo working, really, from water company to water company, where we'd often see examples of a trial taking place in one water company on one patch and exactly the same sort of trial happening in another water company, both completely unaware of what they're doing. So what we're seeing here is a removal of some of that duplication, which is fantastic. And we've actually really consciously pushed the value of collaboration and the need for every project to have a potential benefit for a water customer, whether they are based in Newcastle, Northampton, or even Newport. We have to see those benefits and that they're transferable across the country. So we're really pleased. We're seeing unprecedented collaboration between the water companies, and that's perhaps our greatest achievement so far. We're seeing innovation coordinated like it's never been coordinated before, projects joining together where there's a little bit of overlap. We're seeing water companies increase their capacity to do more innovation and to do it better. And we're starting just to beginning to see a water company sort of shifting culture towards innovation more than it has done previously. And I think the fund has facilitated a lot of this. And all of that combines really to support, I hope, some really sort of fertile ground now for innovation as we move forward and face into the huge challenges that the sector faces. And in terms of other examples, I'm hopefully going to come on to a few more later, but one that really sticks out and I suppose really exemplifies this coming together, this joining together and coordinating is we've got a project called Stream, and it's returned 3 times for funding for different phases. And this is all about standardizing and opening up water sector data for the first time. And that's proving to be also a really significant change, bringing about all sorts of different behavior change and an openness which we've never seen before. And as we know, if we can open up data, that in itself will lead to lots and lots more innovation. So that's a particularly exciting one. Almost all the water companies, I think, are signed up to that, alongside lots of also other digital and IT partners, of course. So fantastic example of everything I'm talking about there in terms of collaboration, culture shifting, skills and capacity moving forward, and so on.
Okay, and I've noticed you're going to be quite busy in the coming months because there's other sort of initiatives planned, and I'll mention them one at a time rather than give you a whole list and ask you to remember them all. But the one of the launches is Water Discovery Challenges, which I think's slated for January 2026. So what are discovery challenges different from breakthrough challenges, if you like?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, the Breakthrough Challenge is all about water companies and the ideas that come through them that they then bring to us. The Discovery Challenge is probably my favorite of our competitions, actually. This is all about the innovators. It's all about giving those startups, those innovators, a platform, giving them access to the sector. And we introduced this competition basically because it was really hard for players who hadn't previously got those relationships in the sector to break into the sector. So what we do in Discovery is we provide a load of funding, as we do in all of our competitions, but this is a bit different because we also provide water company mentoring. which is absolutely crucial to the success of these ideas. And we provide business development support. So if you're a young sort of startup or an immature organization, we do things like intellectual property teachings, and we talk about marketing with them, how to write a business case, those sort of fundamentals around how to develop your business. And in addition to those three aspects, we also provide a proper sort of induction into the water sector, which is a bit of a minefield for those who are sort of entering for the first time. I mean, many don't realise there are three regulators for a starter, so that's something we try and work through as well. And we've only run one discovery thus far, but that was highly successful. We had 250 entries to that. Really showed that there was an appetite for this sort of thing, that there was a lot of really good ideas out there that we weren't tapping into. And so we're planning now to do two more of these over the next 5 years. And we're going to be putting up about £7.5 million per round. And I think what's really encouraging about this also is that some of the most promising of these ideas that have come forward, they've gone on to attract funding from some of our other competitions and move down that sort of technology readiness sort of scale towards sort of completion and then hopefully implementation down the line. So it's been a real eye opener too. I remember before we did this, a lot of colleagues we'd speak to in the water sector were saying, "Well, we've heard all the good ideas. We know everything that's out there," and this really proved that they hadn't seen and heard everything, and there was plenty of other good stuff out there. And we just love the diversity of thinking as well that Discovery brings, especially as it opens the doors for those from other sectors. And obviously, it's always really helpful to have fresh eyes on this. So yeah, this is going to open. Discovery Round 2 will open in January, and we'll be doing a lot of comms and outreach on this over the coming months.
Okay, and then just moving back slightly in time, I think you're launching a water efficiency lab later this year. So where does that fit into the sort of innovation landscape we're talking about?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a busy space, that's for sure. So this is all about attracting the most innovative solutions to really specific water efficiency challenges and supporting progress on water efficiency sort of technology, processes, and approaches. In a nutshell, it's all about driving down the demand on water. And we know that demand is high and is growing, and the capacity to meet that demand is diminishing without further action. So I guess this fits into our sort of competition equation, as it's very specifically focusing on those water efficiency matters. We've got a modest budget compared to Breakthrough for this one, £25 million over the next 5 years. And the first round will open on the 25th of November, 2025. And it's got a very specific challenge, even within the realm of water efficiency. And that is about providing water customers with actionable insights, which is going to help them understand and reduce their water use much better. So we're just finalising at the moment the design of what this thing will look like and some of the more specific detail, and all that will be available soon. But this is not an open call. This is a very niche targeted piece of work, and it's part of a wider water efficiency program. There's another activity Ofwat are undertaking called the Water Efficiency Campaign. Doesn't fall under our remit here on the Innovation Fund, but that's putting about £75 million over the next 5 years towards a national campaign on water demand, water usage, in an effort to I guess, educate everybody a little bit more on this and produce reductions in that demand over time.
Okay, and then moving forwards again in time to 2026, and I said I wasn't going to listen, but maybe I'll put these three together and you can address
Yeah.
each of them. We've got the water innovation missions, cross-sector challenge, and the implementation program. So yeah, obviously just give us a bit more info about each of those.
Yeah, certainly. So we'll start with the Water Innovation Mission. So this is the first of three new programs that we're currently designing up. Each of them actually are there to serve a slightly different purpose and provide different routes for funding and actually policy development work, which is another important angle here. But it's part of this expanded program now that we're trying to do a little bit more to support the wider innovation ecosystem. We've had 5 years of pumping money into those innovative solutions. Now we're looking at the wider piece, and hopefully, as I explain this, that'll become a lot clearer. So, water innovation missions. This is basically all about collaboration and tackling those really thorny key issues that the sector faces in a more joined up way. So this is a bit of a departure from Breakthrough, where we ask the water companies to compete for funding. They come up against each other with their best ideas. In this challenge, this is all about trying to get water companies to coalesce around very specific questions relating to key strategic challenges, and hoping that we can therefore advance thinking or demonstrate a way forward in those areas. So, for example, can we bring everyone together to tackle an aspect of PFAS that is maybe under researched, or maybe micropollutants, something in that sort of emerging contaminant space. Maybe it needs to look at bioresources and the circular economy. What about asset management and resilience? How do we modernize the assets within the sector? Maybe using AI, machine learning, and bringing these sort of analog services into the digital age a little bit more. Could we do something on nature-based solutions? These are the sort of ideas we're sort of batting around at the moment. But the key here is that we're trying to understand better or prove out something that's going to take this thinking forward as a collective, with everyone sort of in combination joining together to support that activities. That's the first one, water innovation missions. Yeah, we think that'll be opening up around March, April 2026 with a little bit of luck. The next one is a little bit different to this. It's called our cross-sector challenge, and this is about exploring joint working with other sectors. We know that water interfaces with, well, almost every other sector that you can think of, and it's not just those obvious ones like agriculture or energy, or other network sectors like road and rail or oil and gas. We're talking here also about pharmaceuticals, retail, fashion, food and drink, and many, many others. In fact, we had a great conversation recently with the Mining Remediation Authority, for example. They've got tons of mine water that they need to treat before they can return it to the environment, but that's extremely expensive. So what are the other uses for this? And of course, immediately for us at least, we're thinking of the cooling of data centers, but I'm sure there are many, many others. So it's that sort of exploration. What can we do with these other areas to try and move things forward, and with a bit of luck, jointly fund the initiatives as well. So it's not just water customers who are paying for us prospecting in that way. We're working with Innovate UK on this, who are very, very well connected across all sectors. So we think that's a really exciting piece, again, in the design phase, but that's coming together nicely, and will probably open with the beginnings of a very specialist sort of stakeholder network that we want to establish around water across those different sectors. And then maybe there'll be some sort of funding program that follows. And the other one, the third one in our new suite of programs, is called the implementation program. Another really key one for us. And this, in a nutshell, I guess, is about accelerating the deployment and scaling of our innovations. Of course, if we can't scale them, we will not achieve the impact that we need to see. But there are a lot of barriers for water companies and the sector in doing this. Some of them are financial, so we're going to have a little look at how we can de-risk some of the finances on this. But others are, I guess, more in our court. Some of them are regulatory, and so we want to try and design a program which can move things forward on both fronts. But that's the headlines for all of them, and yeah, quite a lot to do over the next few months to bring these forward.
Oh, it's brilliant. And then maybe just in finishing, I mean, obviously Ofwat is primarily known for its role as the water industry's financial regulator. I guess it'd just be good to understand sort of why you think it is so important for Ofwat to encourage this sort of level of water industry innovation. You know, what does it get out of it, if you like, as part
Yeah.
of its overall function as the water industry regulator, financial regulator?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably loads of answers here. So let me have a go at a few and see if this fits the bill. So if we think about the end goal, we're in the business here of changing the sector. It needs to be fit for the 21st century and beyond. We need to ensure customers get the best possible service at a reasonable price, and that the environment is not only protected as we do that, but actually, can we enhance it? So I think that's the ultimate driver here. But also we've got things like urgency. We know there's going to be a 5 billion litres per day shortfall of water by 2055. So we really need to act now. And that means changing how we do things and doing that quickly. And I think the intervention of the Ofwat Innovation Fund is really there to accelerate that change and see progress as soon as possible. But we know that innovation is inherently risky. And in the context of water, which of course is an always on service, which has high quality standards to meet that are akin to food standards. It's 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There isn't always that space to innovate at the speed and scale which we need to see. via normal mechanisms. So I think what the Innovation Fund is really doing is trying to design a safe space to bring that innovation forward. And in its 5 years so far, it really has proven to be a tremendous catalyst for innovation. We're now looking at the wider innovation ecosystem, as I've just described. So how can we ensure that innovation is not curtailed because of some other regulatory barriers in the system? And that's again, this is our thing. Where can we can play a really significant role in that, like nobody else, as the regulator, but also the convener of other regulators and government to better create the conditions for innovation to really thrive and for those urgent changes to be made. And I think on the question about really, I mean, why are we putting so much attention on innovation? Yes, it's £400 million over the next 5 years. That's £600 million over the whole 10-year period. But this actually is very little in the grand scheme of things. As the Independent Water Commission pointed out, the £400 million represents less than half of a single percent of the total investment in the sector in 2025 to 2030. And even in that, Cunliffe called for far more investment and innovation. And I guess if you consider that across the next 5 years, our £400 million innovation pot will cost households just over £2 per year on their water bill. That's about 18 pence per month. We think it's really good value for money too. So I guess in summing up, our role here is really key. Some innovation will certainly happen without the Innovation Fund, but it would be less joined up in our opinion. There would be duplication. It would happen at a much slower pace and be far more conservative, I'd say, in reach and scale. And I think the power of the fund really is how it is connecting all corners of the sector together, driving much more ambitious activity forward, but doing that in a systematic and coordinated way and at an accelerated pace. And I think that's why we're here. And I think that's how we're going to have impact. So yes, it's very exciting coming up, but I think Ofwat's role is absolutely central to this moving forward.
Okay, I mean, it's been fantastic to chat, and thank you so much for explaining in great detail and giving some great insights into the work you're doing and obviously planning to do over the coming months. So, Mark, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.